Your D&D Warlocks just don't work. You see cosmic packs, eldritch might, and maybe a mysterious sugar daddy patron. Who doesn't, am I right? But when it comes time to show off your skills, you end up falling back into the same old familiar cantrip.
Anyway, I started blasting. Bang! Bang!
And that's not the only problem the class has, my dear viewers. So let's look at what's wrong with Warlocks, and more importantly, how we fix them. Welcome, my name is Flamey, and you might be wondering, what class would this guy be? Make your guesses in the comments and maybe I'll tell you. We have all been there. You pick Warlock, you can feel the Eldritch power at your fingertips, you're thrumming with power, you're picturing your character making the deal with something way above your pay grade, a fiend, a fae, an ancient god with tentacles. So many choices, and so many limbs. You imagine a story-driven powerhouse oozing with mysterious flavour. You weren't born with power or spent years grinding for it like wizards or sorcerers. You are a contract worker for the void. You put your bets on this godly horse and now it's time to reap the rewards. You've got invocations and pack boons, maybe a familiar that judges your life choices, and it all sounds amazing. And to be fair, in the 2024 rules you do get more of that fun stuff earlier. Your first Eldritch invocation is at level 1, and your classic pack boons like Blade, Tomb and Chain are now invocations you grab right away. Warlocks are made for storytelling, on paper they're fire, but then you play one, and it's a completely different story. When you level up as a Warlock, it feels like the universe is playing a joke on you. While every other caster gets more spells, more slots, more juice. And you climb a level and somehow end up with less flexibility than before. And the new 2024 book does throw you a bone by speeding up invocation progress, but it doesn't really fix the core problem of how cramped your actual spell slots feel. Your entire magic system runs on this weird pack magic economy. A couple of chunky spell slots that recharge on a short rest. Sounds cool, right? Gives off that cosmic edgy vibe. But in practice, it's like being paid twice a day, and only if your party agrees to stop working and take a nap. There is a new feature called Magical Cunning that lets you take a 1-minute ritual once per long rest to get half your pack slots, which helps a bit, but if your table never stops, you're still living that slot-starved life. And you know a few spells, you can cast them a few times, and that's your entire magical existence until somebody remembers short rests exists. Most don't, obviously. So instead of feeling like a deal-making demigod, you're out here budgeting spell slots like they're rent money, staring at the wizard across the table who's casually throwing a meteor swarm and thinking, I traded my soul for this. Where's my swarm? And that, my friends, is the problem. Warlock should feel unique, cinematic and powerful, all the good stuff. Instead, most players I have had the pleasure of GMing and the majority of the internet describe them as restricted. You get a couple slots, one move and then you're done. Guess it's back to the old reliable. And just like that, the most flavorful class in the game somehow ends up feeling like the most repetitive, and it really sucks because it has so much promise. So let's take a look at some of the mechanics that don't work, so we can see how we can try to fix them. First up is pack slots and short rest dependence. Warlocks run on pack magic. You don't get as many spell slots as full casters, but you're supposed to get them back after a short rest, right? Sounds great in principle, but what happens if the party doesn't take a short rest? Short answer is, you're fucked. The issue with Warlock spell slots is that they're balanced around an adventuring day containing 2 short rests. Many parties never reach that. They have stocked up on health potions, DM forgets to prompt them they could take a short rest now, it happens. An hour is a long ass time to sit around waiting, especially for an impatient group. And you become slot starved, watching your pal the wizard fireball 3 times while you debate whether casting Hex again is worth your entire arsenal. So much for power through packs. You're basically a temp worker for the void, begging your party to let you nap so you can do magic again.
I want some more.
It sucks. Here's the other big problem, Eldritch Blast, the iconic cantrip, every Warlock's best friend, the bread and butter of the class. It does scale wonderfully, and it works great with invocations. It does do consistent force damage, and because of that, pretty much every Warlock ends up relying on it, all the time. You've got a boatload of invocations to choose from, but honestly, most of them just say make your blast even better. If you're going to use the new rules, you can actually stick things like Agonizing Blast on other damage cantrips too, which is cool, but let's be honest, most people are pointing all that juice straight towards Eldritch Blast anyways. And it isn't that the class doesn't work, it's that they often trade interesting options for effective options. I often flip through the invocations with the Warlock when they leveled up, and I'm struggling to see the point in picking some of them. So yeah, Eldritch Blast is super strong, but it also kind of locks you in. You either lean into it or accept being less effective than the Warlock at your table who did, and you don't really have much of a choice when you really think about it, kids. So what even is a Warlock supposed to be, really? Are you a blaster, a controller, a support caster, a utility dealer? Mechanically it's a bit unclear, honestly. It's a class lacking a role, a design goal, or a clear path forwards. Late game warlocks can feel like an off-brand sorcerer with cool outfits, which is a bit of a bummer. There's no distinct combat identity, just vibes and vibes alone, my friends. So yeah, unfortunately the internet basically said, warlocks, they're cool, if you don't actually stick around. People just grab a level or two for Eldritch Blast, Agonizing Blast, and those sweet short rest slots that you probably won't get to use. When you think about it, it's kind of a red flag when the best way to play your class is to dip and run, but what are you gonna do? That's how the class is made. Look, you might be thinking, whatever, not every class needs to be flashy. Fair point, but warlocks are literally selling you on the promise of an epic journey filled with power and promise. You cut a deal with something cosmic, you're supposed to feel powerful, unpredictable, maybe a little dangerous. But when your whole game becomes blast blast, can we short rest now please? Repeat. What kind of fantasy is that shit? Players end up stuck between their player's story and what actually works. You can either lean into the cool roleplay stuff and feel useless, or just spam Eldritch Blast until you're bored out of your mind. And GMs, we feel it too. Your warlock's either struggling to keep up in fights, or you're constantly throwing them patron side quests just to keep them interested. And at the end of the day, numbers don't really matter if the player's not having fun, do they? So let's sort this mess out. This is what I've learned over the years from running games with warlocks and feedback from my players, and from what I've seen online. We need to fix the short rest thing. It's a simple tweak, but it's probably the most important. Just make short rests shorter? Like 10 minutes instead of a whole hour. That alone keeps things moving in quicker games. Not every table's players are willing to wait an hour, but 10 minutes is a fraction of the time. Just remember, if your players take the piss resting every hour, then you might need to nerf it. Basically, don't screw over warlocks just because the party's in a hurry. It's not their fault the mechanics work that way. And don't forget magical cunning exists. Once per long rest, they can do a 1-minute ritual to claw back half their slots, which combos really nicely with shorter short rests. Next, we need to give invocations more variety and stop making everything about the blast. Give them more weird stuff, more story hooks, more picks that actually mess with how you play, not just how much damage you do. Use variant rules and just give them some more invocation variety, people. Be adventurous and homebrew something. Speak with your player and try understand the kind of warlock they want to be. If nothing fits, then look at other abilities or spells that might work nicely and give them a cool name. Even something small like an extra low level spell slot or a cool ritual trick could shake things up. Remember people, warlocks don't come with a big neon sign that says, I'm the blaster, or I'm the controller. You need to figure out your vibe as well as your patrons. Are you going to choose Pact of the Chain, where you're the spy, utility creep with a souped up familiar, scouting, help action shenanigans, little battlefield tricks when the familiar survives? Or Pact of the Tomb, the extra magic path, bonus cantrips, ritual casting, more buttons to press when slots are tight? Or maybe you fancy Pact of the Blade, the melee ranged weapon angle, a conjured weapon that actually matters, especially when combined with the right patron and invocations. And then you got the extra Pact of Talisman, a helper for ability checks and a few supporting leaning upgrades. Maybe your DM is willing to do a homebrew if you want to be extra creative. It's what this class is all about. In the new rules, these are all folded into the Eldritch invocation system, and you can start grabbing them from level 1, and even mix more than one over time, which honestly makes it easier to lock in your type of warlock earlier. Once everyone knows what you're aiming for, the DM can toss you moments to actually shine, and make the story tailored to what you, the player, actually wants. And it is a two-person job. You need to decide and then collaborate with the DM. It won't work as well if you do it on your own, or let the DM choose for you. This one's important. The whole patron deal should feel like it matters more often. Let your warlock get surprise visions and sudden power boosts, or weird divine nudges from their patron. Mechanic-wise, toss in some once per short rest, hero moment abilities, teleporting, big damage spikes, crowd control, something that gets you out of the blast rut. You need to keep it unpredictable and cinematic as hell. Like, who cares if you give away a few freebies? I'm sure a patron would reward loyalty, or be creative and do the opposite if they're ignoring their patron's wishes. And we can't forget Blade Pack, folks. Yeah, I see you struggling. If you're going to get up close and personal, you need real melee chops to back it up. Better defenses, better hit bonuses, maybe some extra goodies in trade for fewer slots. Give Blade Warlocks some actual bite, otherwise they just spam Eldritch Blast from across the room like everyone else. And you might think it will nerf the game, but it really won't, and it will make a huge difference to the Warlock's experience. So with all that said, here's Flamey's top 3 fixes you can use at your table. 1. Shorter rests, or Eldritch Recovery. Reduce the time of short rests from an hour to 10 minutes. If that doesn't work and your players just breeze past it, try something like Wizard's Arcane Recovery, but for Warlocks, rename it Eldritch Recovery. Recovery. Or if you've got cooler names, call it that. But basically it's the same sort of thing. You get a set amount of spell slots you can regain. But in this case, I usually do 2 of them per long rest. And it only takes a minute to cast, rather than the hour for a short rest. At least this way, your Warlock gets to use more spell slots that probably will equal it out to a Wizard or a Sorcerer or other spell users. When I started using this trick, I handed out tokens to the Warlock, and then as he used them, he handed me one back, until he had none left, and then after a long rest, I'd give them back to him. Or you could just do it on a sheet and mark off a slot. 2. Invocation Diversification Rule. If you or your Warlock takes non-blast invocations, you get a tiny buff, maybe advantage once per short rest, or a +1 save bonus, with just rewarding flavour over the same old formula. And 3. Patron Token Rule. Regularly start a session with a quick 5-minute scene where your patron whispers or tempts or threatens you, and then congratulations, you earned a patron token. Spend it to regain a slot, or cast a spell you don't know, that's been agreed with the GM. Or it doesn't have to be any of those, you can make them up, just adding a little spice to the game is all. The idea of a Warlock is one of D&D's best classes, trapped in one of the weakest systems. It should feel epic, dangerous, and unpredictable, but the mechanics set it up for failure, and now we have ideas to fix that, guys. You don't have to overhaul it, you just need to give Warlocks more decision points, more short rests, or opportunities to short rest however you choose, more viable invocations, more consistent pacing, and more patron drama baked into play. If you're a DM, try one of these fixes next session. If you're a player, talk to your DM about rest pacing, or patron tokens, or Eldritch Recovery. Warlocks really should be a sick class to play, so give these a try and see what happens. And please let me know in the comments if you've ever played a Warlock or had any of these issues. How did you fix them? Or as a DM, how have you helped your player overcome these problems? Share them for others to see and hopefully help them along with their journey. Thank you for watching, and as always, stay spicy, adventurers.